Hey guys, I'm Richard Fitzgerald. This is Dubai Works, where we interview the business leaders making a difference in this great city. Hope you all had a good Eid break, and some people who are back at work, that you're having a good week, good start to the second half of the year. For those who are on holiday and listening to this, hope you're enjoying wherever you are in the world right now. And the type of podcast interview that we're doing this week is all about remote working. It's a company that has pioneered software around remote working. So this might be interest to you if you're remote working this summer. It's been a busy week as ever in the global tech world. There's been a huge product launch by Instagram yesterday, Threads. So there's a lot going on there, and I think it's fascinating to see how a company can launch a new feature, a new product, and get so many downloads in one day. I think they had over 30 million downloads in one day, which is no mean feat. So I think there's lots of lessons to learn there around tech and product and launches and features and things like that, and also bigger discussions around media and the social web and where we're going. The word that was used in that released by Meta, Facebook, Instagram yesterday was the Fediverse, which is a new term about distributed media and content. So one to watch for sure. But as I said, this interview is all about remote working. Enjoy the conversation. Welcome back to another episode of Dubai Works Business Podcast. With us on today's show is Kamal Reggad. He is the CEO and co-founder of RemotePass. They are an onboarding and payroll platform for remote teams. This is an all-in-one solution that helps companies to control the entire remote working lifecycle, enabling onboarding, payments, managing and retaining staff effortlessly. Good morning, Kamal.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining the show. So, can you tell us a little bit about RemotePass?
Of course. So basically, RemotePass is a platform for companies to easily hire anyone, anywhere in the world, in countries mainly where they don't have a local presence. For remote teams, it is a super app for financial services and benefits, and mainly in developing countries.
Okay, fascinating. There's so much to unpack in this. Obviously remote working is a big trend, but also software and fintech that enables companies to run their modern businesses in a more efficient way. So how did you come up with the idea of RemotePass? When did it start? And can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into it?
So basically, our journey started back in 2011, and the idea was a platform for business travel and expenses. So we raised funding from local VCs. We launched 6 months of great traction. COVID hits, we see our numbers go down to zero overnight. And after a couple of months, it became clear that it was time for us to pivot into something, and something that is more relevant to the context back then and still today. We decided to go with the platform to enable companies to hire remote workers. The funny thing is that we were already a remote first organization. So practically we knew all the pain points when it comes to hiring remote, compliance, payroll. We knew that we were not doing things properly, and we decided to build something to help companies overcome these challenges.
Okay, fascinating. And how's it going sort of 3 years later then?
Things are going pretty well. We never imagined to have this kind of traction, and but overall things are going pretty well. As you can see around the world, remote work has been adopted by companies of different sizes, different backgrounds, and different parts of the world.
How much of the timing of this and the product that you have now is directly related to the pandemic? In other words, if people aren't traveling and if they're not expensing anything because they're at home in 2020, then they can't use an expense app. And if remote working is taken off, then maybe a remote working product is needed. Do you think that is that how this happened, or is it, a natural evolution anyway?
Well, I don't think travel is going away, it just in our case, we were at an early stage. It didn't make sense for us to wait for travel to come back. If you remember, during COVID, after like 2 months, it became clear that things are not coming back to normal anytime soon, and nobody knew how long this was going to take. Our early stage, we said, okay, we're not ready to wait for 2 years or whatever long it takes, and then it just became clear that we needed to do something else, and remote work was just the right thing to do for us, because we were already in B2B. We were interviewing our clients and following the trends, and everything was moving into the remote work direction.
That's fascinating, on the pivot and the early pivot as well. But as you said, you had a lot of the initial things in place. Was it the same name, and you already had, similar types of skill sets in your company that could produce a different product?
Yeah, there are some similarities. Look, first of all, it's a B2B platform. It's SaaS. So there was the foundation that we built on. The second thing is our experience, as I mentioned, in remote work. We were already a remote first organization, and we had team members in different countries. So we were the first use case. And so definitely we capitalized on so many things. And the thing that helped us a lot is that we already had a tech team in place. So we had tech and product team in place. So it made life super easy to build something quickly and ship it and start testing it with with users.
Okay, so if a company, how many companies are using RemotePass now?
So today there are over 800 companies that are Amazing. On the platform.
And which countries are they from?
Initially we just started with the UAE. Today, the majority are located in GCC. But I would say about 30% of our clients are from the US and Europe.
That's amazing. Well done. So what services are they using? What's available to them, and how are they using it?
On RemotePass today, you have the ability to hire remote workers, and these workers could be classified as contractors or full-time employees. So you have the option to choose. So companies are depending, we see different trends depending on the region. Like if we're talking about Africa, developing countries, companies are using it to hire contractors. But in other countries, companies prefer to hire full-time employees. So they have the choice. They get to do whatever they want on the platform and engage with these workers in their preferred method.
Okay, and there's lots of HR software. There's lots of even traditional ways of managing people. What's specific about remote workers? Do you have what are the things that your platform does in terms of banking details, in terms of digital features like signatures and all those sort of things?
So today, RemotePass covers the entire process, like end to end, like from the moment you find that person, you hire them through the platform, compliance, contract, signature, KYC, all of those things are done on the platform. No email is sent. So everything is done on the platform. Everything is saved on the platform. We're GDPR compliant, SOC 2, Type 2, audited and certified. So you have your documentation in a safe place. And throughout the month, you have a bunch of HR tools to manage the day-to-day, such as multi-expense currency management, multi-currency expense management, time off, equipment, and so on. So basically, by using RemotePass, technically, you do not need to use anything else to manage your remote teams. However, We're conscious that companies do have their favorite tools, HR tools, and then what we've done is we've built integrations allowing them to synchronize all the data from RemotePass with whatever preferred tool they have in place for the rest of the team members. And the last piece is the payment. So basically, if you have like 100, 1,000, or 5,000 remote workers on the platform, at the end of the month, you only make one payment. And RemotePass will take care of the rest, paying everyone wherever they are in the world, in the currency of their choice, the payout method of their choice. And basically, remote workers, they have the full flexibility to choose how to get paid. And yeah, so we streamlined the entire process.
Okay, that's fascinating. You mentioned, I'll break that down a little bit. I'll get to the fintech part, but so you mentioned equipment and things like that. So if an employee, say I'm based in the UAE and I have a contract employee in Bahrain or in Lebanon, and I've agreed a rate with them, I've signed a contract, and I want to manage, say, 20 hours a week or 40 hours a week, but they don't have a laptop. How do I get them a laptop? And then how do I also then check that they're working the 20 hours a week?
Great. I mean, if you have such cases, you could use your RemotePass, and within 10 minutes, you can set up this contract, payment schedule, and so on. When it comes to equipment, we recently launched in beta equipment leasing. So we cover over 120 countries when it comes to equipment, and you can lease equipment for a duration of 6 months or 12 months. And then you don't have to worry about buying a computer, having to deal with shipping, customs, taxes, and all of those things. So the person would have the computer for 6 months, and when they're done, our partner would just pick it up from them wherever they are in the world, and then return it back to their warehouse. And it also covers, for example, tech support. So if they have an issue with a laptop, or they can just reach out to the support team, and they have 24/7 support to help them with anything related to equipment. And at the end of the month, of course, you get to pay them through the platform. And as a company, the great thing here is that you don't have to worry about, like, as I mentioned, taxes, shipping, pickup, delivery, and most importantly, the CapEx. Like, how do you manage that on your accounting, and if the person leaves, and so on. So you get to focus on your business, and then we take care of the rest.
And what about the management? You know, one of the things about remote working that people have learned over the years is that in theory it works, but you actually have to structure your business around it. And one of the parts is software, but there's also project management or layers of middle management to oversee and supervise that remote workers are actually working. So how does RemotePass facilitate that?
So for us, we do not get involved in the operational side and your relationship with the employee or contractor. But I have to say that, like, really, remote work, it starts with trust. I mean, you have to be equipped and have processes in place. Of course, you don't have them like from day one, but these are things work in progress that you have to improve. But it is really important that you hire people that you trust to work with you. For instance, in our case, we have team members across 22 different countries. So we only hire people that we trust. They can do the job and they can deliver. And instead of focusing on what they're doing at 8 a.m. or at 12 p.m., we focus on deliverables. We focus on output mainly. So this is the most important things. Everyone has KPIs and they need to focus on. And the most important thing is delivery. So I truly believe that trust is the most important thing, whether it's remote or not, and focusing on output is key to success.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting how you put it. I think, it's nice that software doesn't promise everything, but that people also shouldn't just rely on software to make an organization work, that it does what it needs to do. It makes what you're promising to be efficient management of remote employees from a compliance point of view, from a payment point of view, from a contract point of view. But then obviously the business needs to function itself with tasks and management and and communication and everything like that. But Kamal, you mentioned the payment to many countries around the world. In the Middle East and North Africa, there are certain countries that have different payment challenges, whether it's currency fluctuations, whether it's remittance challenges and things like that. How do you overcome some of those payment issues?
Yeah, our region is really interesting. Every country has its own set of challenges, exotic currencies, and at the same time, we have one of the most amazing talent in these places. And our platform, what it does, before, if you worked for a company, the company would just send you a bank transfer. Right? Sometimes you get it after 2 days. Sometimes you don't get it after 2 days, 7 days, and all of those things. And most of the time, you are forced to receive the funds in that specific currency that your employer chose for you. With RemotePass, we remove that layer, and then you get your funds on RemotePass, and then you get to decide how do you want to receive them. So you could be sitting in Morocco, Egypt, or Lebanon and say, I want to receive my money in local currency, or I want to receive my money in USD. Or we've seen cases, the person says, I am in Egypt and I want to receive my money in Euro. That is possible. So we cover most currencies, and you can receive money anywhere in the world as long as the bank account is under your name. If you don't want to do bank account, you can choose PayPal, you can choose Payoneer, or even in crypto. So you do have the ability to receive your salary or your payment in crypto. Another product that we launched, and it's part of our super app for remote workers, which is the RemotePass card. So it is a debit card by MasterCard, and then which allows remote workers, mainly in emerging markets, developing countries, to receive funds instantly at zero cost. They get to receive their money in USD and hold their funds indefinitely. So this is a product that has seen so much success. And like you mentioned, users who do not want to convert their funds and they prefer to hold funds in USD. So this is a great product for them.
So in that case, the company would send them via RemotePass, they would send them one of these debit cards, and if they didn't have a bank account and they didn't have a PayPal, they could get a top up on the card, and they would avoid some of the maybe expensive currency transfer fees. Obviously, there'd be some fees, but it mightn't be as much.
Well, the thing is, the company does not get involved at all. So the company has already agreed with the person. Let's say I'm going to pay you $5,000, right? I'm going to give you $5,000, and it's up to you to see how do you want to receive it. I do not want to be involved. And the person, they get to choose if they want to request the card or not. It's not up to their employers. So if I'm a remote worker, I get to say, okay, I request the card or I won't. And the other thing is that the card is portable. So if I move to another employer, I get to keep my card. I get to keep all of the benefits that I have under the RemotePass super app.
Okay, that's really, so you're empowering the remote worker who's already an individual who wants to sort of manage their own time and work anyway. So it kind of suits, and it probably works well on that level. So what are the other things around, do you see this as sort of is there some element of fintech here where you're managing payments and you're managing funds? And what sort of license do you have? Which free zone are you licensed in the UAE? And does that reflect on the fintech side?
Yeah, so we have entities around the world. So depending on the product, for example, when it comes to payments, all of our operations are run out of the US or Singapore. So depending on the product that we're using, depending on the payment provider, we are mainly operating out of the US. So on the payment side of things.
Why is that?
And then it is, it's just the framework for what we try for what we're doing. It's more clear in the US. And the other thing is that you have most of the payment providers are based out of the US, which makes things really easy for us to partner up with them, because we do not send transfers ourselves. We do partner with payment providers, remittance players to make these transfers happen. So we're connected. We have native connection with them via APIs. Everything is automated. So whenever there is a transfer, let's say to Egypt, the system will automatically pick up the most appropriate provider and then send that transfer with them.
Okay, makes
Because at the
sense.
end
And
of
in
the
the
day, we're
UAE, where
simply
did you
the
register
agent.
the business?
So we're not. Hello?
Can you hear me? We'll try that again. In the UAE, where did you set up the license and register the business?
So our group is set up across many countries. So we have entities in different countries, and depending on the product, depending on the service that we're providing, we would choose an entity. Like for instance, everything related to payments is operating out of our US entity or Singaporean entity, simply because the framework is more favorable, I believe. And we do work with payment providers, and most of them happen to be in the US. So it makes things really easy for us to partner up with them to make these transfers happen around the world.
Okay, makes sense. And in Dubai and UAE in particular, where did you license the business?
So we're licensed at ADGM.
Okay, and do you have a free zone also in the UAE?
Yes.
Where's that?
It's free zone. A free zone license.
Okay, but do you have employees working in one of the free zones, say in Dubai, for example?
Absolutely. I mean, we do have employees in the UAE and working out of ADGM as well. Not necessarily in ADGM because we're fully remote and everyone works from home or uses one of the co-working spaces. But yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. So for example, in the UAE, in that case, if you have remote staff, then do they need freelance visas?
I mean, they're considered employees. They have a remote work visa.
Okay, but and then are they employees under your ADGM license, or do you have another free zone license in the UAE?
They're employed under ADGM.
Okay, makes sense. And so that's interesting. And of the 800 companies that say work with RemotePass, how many of them, Kamal, would you say are sort of remote first, or are, in terms of the breakdown?
So I would say less than 10% are remote first. The rest they do have parts of their business that is remote. And mainly like you see this on tech, product, and everything, graphic design, content, and support. So these are the departments where companies usually resort to remote work, and they capitalize on the talent that is the talent pool in Africa and in other countries in MENA.
The reason I asked that question is because just for the listeners to understand, you know, when you're running a company, software procurement is something that you have to understand. What software do I need for which things? And a lot of people, a lot of companies might think that they need HR software to do onboarding and expenses and many things like that, maybe not payment. And then if they need to get freelancers, so if they're, you know, like one of those 90% of those companies that most of their staff are full-time in an office, and then for certain skills they need to outsource or get freelance, they might use another software that isn't a HR software, such as a freelance portal online. And so what do you think of that analogy in terms of, do you have people who use you as a HR software because they're 100% remote? And do you have people who use you instead of a freelance software because they need extra skills from elsewhere?
We see both cases, Richard. So, I mean, even we are living proof. So ourselves, we use RemotePass for our local employees, for our remote employees, remote contractors. We do not use any other external tool. So yeah, I mean, we have different cases.
Okay.
Companies have different needs. Yeah.
So sometimes, so say we use a Fiverr or an Upwork, and we need a specific job done, graphic designer, coding, or development. And when we work with when any company works with some individuals, there is acknowledgement on both sides that this individual might have other jobs as a freelancer. And do you have that situation where people are on RemotePass and they've got many types of revenue through RemotePass with other companies, or is there acknowledgement that this is more like a full-time remote piece of work?
Yeah, I mean, that can happen, but in our case, like from the contracts that we see on the on the platform, all right. The contracts that we see on the platform is these companies are hiring these workers for a long period of time and almost on a full-time basis. So it's not like Upwork or other freelance platforms where it's gig works, short-term projects. Companies on RemotePass are hiring for the long term.
Okay, but
it's then slightly different case.
Yeah, I understand. Thanks for explaining. So then, you know, as people sort of bounce back from the pandemic, and you know, relatively people kind of came back to the office, especially in the UAE, 5 days a week, other parts of the world 3 days a week. Do you see that there's that you're adding new features onto your platform that isn't just for remote workers now, and could be used for like as a HR platform as well for full-time employees?
Definitely, it is something that we are looking at, and in the future, depending on how things evolve, we would be introducing new features. I mean, at the end of the day, we just want to simplify. If we feel like we're adding value to what's already existing in the market, we will do it. Otherwise, we will partner with other providers to make the experience seamless with for clients.
Do you think that during the pandemic, a lot of narrative in the media was that we're in a new world. It's everything's going to be remote first. Commercial units aren't going to be needed for offices. Do you think that narrative has kind of changed now, and it's not as all or nothing as it was maybe perceived to be?
I mean, look, not every company is made to be remote or have remote workers. Remote work is not for every individual in the world. People have different preferences, but remote work is definitely here to stay. I mean, first of all, I mean, look at, if you try to get everyone in a single country, in the UAE or KSA, it would be really hard to find all the talent you need, and try to hire from different places. And I think that MENA companies have a real competitive advantage when it comes to talent. It's Africa alone has over 700 qualified tech professionals. And when you think about this is very comparable to LATAM, or if not larger. So, I mean, most countries in Africa are within a 3-hour time zone of GST, are within 3 hours of GST. Time zone, and English language is predominant. So companies can really capitalize on remote work and tap into the talent pool in Africa.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, when you put it like that, usually people would say that Dubai particularly has, it's such a nice city to live in that it's able to attract people to, but also that this region can access time zones is an important thing sometimes, especially in the service industry. When business hours are of certain hours, but obviously there's other companies who aren't as tied to sort of service industry as well. On that sort of point, with respect to how you're seen as a startup, when you raised funds before, and I guess I'll ask this in a few different ways. Firstly, going back to what you said at the start, how did your initial investors receive the information that you were that you were changing from a sort of expenses business to a remote pass and a remote working solution. Did they think it was a good idea, and did they still sort of back you as they did at the start?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're very fortunate to have like one of the most amazing investors on board. So when that happened, like when we made decision to pivot, we didn't know what to expect. So my co-founder Karim and I sat down and we said, okay, let's call each one of them, schedule a call, walk them through the thinking process, and offer to give back the money. Since at the time we had not spent a lot because we were only in operations for about 6 months. And then we spoke to every single investor for like 30 minutes or so, and then just explained to them. And every single one of them said, well, look, I mean, when we invested in you, we invested in you, not on the company. So whatever you do, we're with you. So nobody took their money back, even though we did offer it. And we are forever grateful for that. They were super supportive, and they still are.
That's a really nice story, that you as founders were able to have the communication skills to be able to manage and be upfront about it to the investors, whether you offered the money back or not, but just to be able to explain to them that the decisions. And I think that's a good way to sort of have them on board. But then as you sort of went on, did you raise another round? And if so, if you speak to investors since then, what sort of opportunity are you presenting to them? Are you presenting them the remote working sort of total addressable market opportunity? Is that what you're speaking to them about? And how has investment gone since then?
So yeah, I mean, we've done about 3 rounds already, and yeah, like the way we position our offering and what we're trying to do. So for us, what keeps us motivated every day is not only the ability to offer a platform for companies to hire anyone from anywhere, but the ability we bring to the remote worker that is sitting in developing countries and to be able to work for global companies. So that's why we wake up every day and get super excited about it. And the second thing is bringing financial services and benefits, because most of the remote workers on the platform are located in Africa or in emerging markets. So emerging markets, I mean, they have different needs, and a lot of them lack access to proper financial services and benefits. So for us, we're super obsessed about the experience of these remote workers. We introduced the card, we introduced health insurance, and we continue to introduce more products. I mean, for example, today, if you work for a company or a global company and you're based out of Morocco, the chances to get, it would be really hard to sign up for health insurance with a local company, because the insurance company, they need to know who your employer is. And if your employer is not within the country, most likely they would not want to have you on board. They would not want to sign you up. And what we brought to these workers is the ability to sign up for premium health insurance for themselves and their dependents instantly on the app, on the RemotePass app. So on the RemotePass app, they can sign up for it and they can pay in monthly installments rather than committing to a full year payment. They get to pay in monthly installments and they get to cover the loved ones. And this is what excites us, and this is our mission, to really empower these remote workers. And this is what we pitch to them. This is what we pitch internally. This is why we wake up every day super excited, and this is what we tell our investors.
So if I'm hiring a contract person, or if any company is, usually, they'd pay contract fee and then they wouldn't have to, they wouldn't be seen as a full-time employee. And we see this as a regulatory issue in the US with gig workers and all that. But then in other countries, there is obviously labor law, and as a responsible employer, even though you don't have a legal entity in that country, you could follow guidelines of that labor law with regard to annual leave, insurance, things like that, and taxes. But if a company doesn't have a legal jurisdiction there, then they don't have to follow that labor law, right? But so how do you view that? Is it on the company, or you're saying no? It's more that you're empowering the employee to be able to avail of the same benefits as they would if they were a full-time worker.
That's a really good point. So here's the thing. When you hire someone in a country where you don't have a local entity, you get to use RemotePass and decide whether you want to engage with that person as an independent contractor or as a full-time employee. If you want to hire them as a full-time employee, you tell us, hey, RemotePass, I found this guy in, let's say, in the UK, and I want to hire that person full-time and pay their tax contributions, do tax withholding and all of that, and offer benefits. We say, fine, we will hire them under our own entity, and we will bill you at the end of the month the total cost of employment plus our fee. That's one way to go about it, right? In this case, the person gets all the benefits as if the company was located in the UK physically. The second option would be to hire them as an independent contractor. So when you hire someone as an independent contractor, by law, you're not supposed to buy them health insurance, provide them with benefits. And then they are supposed to do their own taxes because they are self-employed. So what we do is we enable you as a company to hire them as an independent contractor, depending on the arrangement that you have with them, whether it's fixed term, if it's hourly or milestone based. So you have different types of contracts. And then since you're not allowed to buy them health insurance or provide them with benefits, RemotePass does. So we say, okay, your company is not allowed to do that because it's not compliant, because there is an independent contractor client relationship. We're going to offer you these benefits. So if you want to sign up for health insurance, it's going to cost you X dollars per month, and you can sign up and add dependents. If you want to sign up for the card, you can just get it instantly, virtual or physical, and so on. So in cases where the company is not able to provide these benefits, we come in as a third party and we provide these services directly to the contractor.
That's fascinating. Thanks for explaining, especially the bit about that. Well, firstly, that you can do it through your company and there's an extra fee, but then secondly, that a remote contractor, independent contractor, technically the company isn't allowed to do those things because they don't have an entity on the ground. So I guess that's really clear now. But just going back to the stage that you're at now, you mentioned 3 rounds. So what sort of stage is the business at, and what are the plans for the future?
So right now we're at a steady Series A, Series B stage. So I mean, we've done already 3 rounds. So it's so yeah. I mean, I would say that we are at the Series A stage.
And then plans for Series B. I guess I kind of asked this in a different way, but are you still sort of positioning this as the addressable market is a global remote working audience, right? Like you're not necessarily saying, hey, we want to sort of tap into HR software as a SaaS in emerging markets, but we can actually be someone who can be of use to companies who anywhere in the world.
We are that platform. If you need a platform that works, for example, in KSA to handle withholding tax, we are that platform. So we have so we are adapted for the region. But at the same time, if you're a US company and want to use RemotePass, of course you can do that as well. But in the US, in the region, we have quite an advantage for local companies. The second thing is our offering for remote workers is, I think we are the only ones in this space that does the benefits and financial services for remote workers. And if a company is hiring in Africa or in developing countries, so they would find it very useful to work with us.
Can you just explain on Saudi and the withholding tax? So is that usually on a company level, right? Or do you mean it from an individual point of view?
From the company side. So like for instance, in some countries, if you're paying whatever service you're paying from overseas, so you are supposed to pay a certain tax to the government, right? This does not exist in the UAE, but in other countries it does. So if you're paying a remote worker, or if you're paying a provider or a service, you do pay a tax to the local authorities. Now that tax varies depending on the service, the country. Some countries have double treaty, and so basically our platform handles for that, and provides you with the report at the end of the month saying, hey, you have to pay X amount to the tax authorities, and here is a detailed report. So simplifying the entire process, and you don't have to really go into details and seeing which country has double treaty with my country. So everything is handled for you.
It sounds like that you or your team need to have tax experts who are experts in every country.
We do. Although we're a tech company, like the first thing that we started with is the legal and compliance framework. So in every country that we support, we have a local firm that we work with. So we have our internal legal counsels, but we also work with a local law firm in every single country that we support. And we also have a local law firm that has a tax practice, because these two things, they go hand in hand, and it's super important for us to make sure that our documentation and whatever we promise to our clients are up to date, and yeah, it's part of what we do.
And so, two ways of asking this: how do you attract new businesses? Does it come from the B2B side more than the employee side? And, of that, then what's the breakdown of your team in terms of people who manage the legal side, people who manage the tech, and then people who manage the business development and marketing?
So initially our business development efforts, it was founders led. So Karim and myself were doing most of the sales efforts for the first 8 months of the company. And a lot of our growth was due to word of mouth and referrals. So companies would refer us to the second, to the third, to the fourth. So this is how we managed to grow for the first 8 months or so. After that, we built an internal team that does outreach and standard cold calling, emails, and reaching out to potential prospects. And now we have both channels. So you have clients that come to us through G2 Trustpilot after they see our reviews, or they land on our website through an ad, and they sign up on their own. Companies today, they can sign up directly on our website without even having to talk to us, and they can start using our services. Now, when it comes to our team, I would say about 35% of the team is in tech and product, and 50% is in operations. Operations for us includes everything support, everything non-sales. So support, marketing, legal, compliance, and so on.
Okay, and how many people in total?
So today we're close to 70 people.
Okay, very good. And where are you based yourself, Kamal?
I'm based in the UAE.
And is your co-founder here as well?
My co-founder is based out of the UK.
Okay, so it is very much remote first. I really like the concept in terms of as an employer to know that you're managing your contract employees in a way where you're looking after them, or at least there's a platform that's there to be able to give them the benefits that they need. But for example, and this is in our situation, we weren't necessarily ready to open an office in Qatar, but we knew to build a publishing business, we had to sort of have someone on the ground. And we used a more traditional sort of PRO services company there, and we pay them. And then like what you said as a full-time employee, what you would be able to do, imagine in a situation where we didn't do it that way. Is it possible to hire people in places like Qatar and the UAE where it's a contract basis, but then they don't have the visa and the insurance and things like that? or do you have to do it where you're doing it through the company?
Look, every country has its own set of regulations. So, for example, in the UAE has been it's so impressive. I mean, it's one of the first countries to come up with the remote work visa, which is pretty amazing. And then that was back in 2021 or late of 2020. And after that, about 43 countries have replicated the same concept. So the UAE, yes, you can. So the UAE, you can be self-employed and consider the remote work visa. Now, if you already have a residency, you're already working for a company or have golden visa or anything else, you can work as a contractor, and then you do not have to pay that person for their health insurance because they're supposed to have one already. So yes, there is a way you can do that. Other countries it's really specific to the country, but as long as the person is working there legally, they have, if they're an expat and they have a legal residence, they should be able to work as a contractor as well.
Okay, fascinating. So lastly, we're obviously you work a lot in emerging markets with Africa, the Middle East. What's your view of this region? Do you think it's a market that will emerge and will become one of the sort of biggest economies in the world in this region?
I'm a big believer in this region, and so as I mentioned, it is underrated, and in the future we would see more and more focus in MENA. So like I mentioned, Africa has over 700,000 tech professionals. That is a gold mine, and So yeah, and we see it already. Like when you look at Nigeria, they have the best talent when it comes to product, when it comes to fintech. Egypt as well have one of the most amazing engineers and product professionals, and we will see more and more focus in this region. So absolutely, for sure. And as I mentioned earlier, it's really hard for a company today. Like, let's say tomorrow I ask you, hey, Richard, go find 20 engineers, whatever you are, in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. And I guarantee you that it will take you about 4 to 6 months to find that talent, right? And if you open up to remote work and hiring from abroad, you might be able to get those 20 developers onboarded within 1 to 2 months. Because suddenly you go from a talent pool of thousands to a talent pool of 700,000. So the chances to find the right person are really high. And also think about the interview process. All the time you waste, the person would waste to schedule interviews in person and all of that. With Zoom calls, you can fit an interview within your calendar easily, and even the process would be more streamlined. So yeah, I mean, apart from the cost, there is that efficiency aspect to it as well, especially for companies looking to scale faster and get people on board as quickly as possible.
It's a good pitch, Kamal. I'm definitely intrigued and also impressed with what you guys have done so far. It's not easy to execute an idea with tech like this and also to navigate a new world that we're in. So well done. Thank you for taking the time today. Thank you for being on the show, and we'll follow RemotePass as you continue your journey in the future.
Thank you, Richard. It was a pleasure being here.
Thanks a lot. That was very interesting. You know, as this is Dubai Works, we really do like to feature those type of companies. So well done to Kamal and his team at RemotePass and what they're doing. I'm definitely going to check it out for some of our riders in other the 11 cities and see what we can do with RemotePass. As always, thank you to Shahir and Ali who put the show together. It is available on Smashy TV apps, on smart TVs, on mobile devices as a full video, but also if you're listening on audio podcast You can catch it there. Do like, comment, share on social media. Smashy is a streaming service. We're also doing a lot of live sports in the UAE. It's mid-season at the moment, or off-season. There aren't any league streaming at the moment, but we are gearing up for the 2022-2023 season, where we'll have futsal, volleyball and handball, and hopefully we'll have an announcement soon that we'll be adding a new sport onto Smashy as well. So I would encourage you, if you like this, just to check out the app to see the streaming service. But if you're more into the business content, there will be a few more announcements around other versions of Dubai Works Business Podcasts in the future as well. Or you can check out Smashy Business on Instagram, where you get all your startup news daily. And there's also an Arabic show called Smashy Tech that mainly goes out on our app and on Snapchat as well. We'll be back next week on Fridays, 11 o'clock it goes live, and then it's usually published around 2 or 3 p.m. on Friday afternoon, so you can check it out over the weekend. Have a good week and speak to you then.